Hey everybody, my name is Paul Leston Jr., aka Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. We're streaming live simultaneously in 3 different places. The Heavy on Jets Facebook page to 20,000 New York Jet fans. My YouTube account, youtube.com/BoyGreen25. And of course on the Twitter sphere at BOY Green the Color 2. 5, baby. Yes, sir. We're here on a Monday. Wish it was a victory Monday. Unfortunately, not the case after a heartbreaking, gut-wrenching loss to the gosh darn Minnesota Vikings. We were right there. We shoulda. We coulda. It was impressive nonetheless. The Jets being down 20-3, making a comeback. Mike White making some big boy throws. He put his big boy pants on and made some things happen. That was absolutely impressive to see. Yet the Jets are not able to get the dub. The good news is the Jets remain in the playoff picture after our chatter yesterday. The Los Angeles Chargers lose to the Raiders. Thank you very much, Raiders Nation. The Buffalo Bills take care of the New England Patriots. Thank you very much, Bills Mafia. And now the Jets still remain in that 7 hole right now if the playoffs started today. So while the loss stunk and could have created a little extra cushion potentially in the AFC playoff picture, the Jets right now, if the season started today, would be in the postseason. So in other words, they control their destiny the rest of the way. And you're already seeing it here from the fans because I need to give this shout out. JW, hit that like button. That's a free way to contribute to this program. Again, like the video, hit subscribe down below. It makes a tremendous difference. If you love the show, first time, multi-time abuser, whatever the case is, make sure you support the show. It makes a major difference. So like the video, hit subscribe down below. If you want to dig into your pockets and you want to be one of those people that wants to be over the top, an overachiever, a teacher's pet perhaps, why don't you get friendly with old boy Green? Go to the YouTube Super Chat feature. Reach into your pockets and throw a little tip. It is the YouTube Super Chat feature, which highlights your comment and gives you a special shout out on the show just to tell you how much I love you. So feel free to do that option as well on the YouTube channel. Thank you, JW. Thank you, Charles Giggles. I love that name as well. And my boy Christian popping in as well. My guy, Boy Green. I want to start off the show with this. We will have Will Parkinson, our New York Jets guru, joining us as he does every Monday. But I want to start the show with the Robert Saleh presser. Our show, mine and Will's, as we have it here every Monday for you, it was designed to come to you after the Robert Saleh press conferences, which is every Monday afternoon, to give you the latest, freshest reaction to all the news and nuggets that are coming out. And Robert Saleh had some interesting comments on the quarterback situation. We're going to play you that clip here, and I want to bring it up here on the show. Again, this is Robert Saleh, okay, talking about the quarterback situation, reiterating that Zach Wilson, the intent is to still get him on the football field here for the New York Jets this season. Let's hear from the head coach himself, Robert Saleh.
Is your intent still to have Zach play this season?
That's still, I'm still right there with that same intent. Zach's been doing everything right. He's been putting in the extra meeting time. He's been putting in the extra work after practice. Really working on trying to retie all his fundamentals together and spending, like I said, spending extra time with him. All the work that he's doing on scout team with regards to playing quarterback the way, and I know people think scout team, all offenses to a degree run the same stuff, but just tying it all together and getting completions against our defense, just get completions and regain all the confidence that we know he's capable of and all the different things that he's capable of as a quarterback. So. But the intent is to still get him back on the football field.
I guess Michael, go ahead. My follow-up question would be why? Because it looks like Mike White's capable as a quarterback.
Mike is capable for sure.
And you guys are in a playoff push, right? There's only 5 games left, so it's not like we're in September here and you're saying, hey, he's going to play. So I guess just why is that the intent still to get Zach back on the field?
So for Mike, and I'm going to stay status quo on all of it, this is Mike's opportunity to make noise. And you never ask how your opportunity comes. You just take advantage of your opportunity and you do the best you can. And so it's, we got all the faith in Mike. I've said it before, and I know the line, if you have more than one quarterback, you have none. Well, we feel like we have 3 of them. We got 3 pretty damn good ones. And but right now, while Zach is focusing on reconnecting and doing all the different things that we know he's capable of, right now is Mike's opportunity, and I really would love to just focus on Mike and his opportunity and give him every chance to see.
Take a few more, coach. A few more.
Mike could ruin that plan then, Robert, right? If I'm understanding correctly. He plays well.
Is that a backdoor hypothetical, Kyle?
No, hypothetical. I mean, he's played well through, right? He's played well.
No, he's played really well. He's played really well. And he's played really well.
Very interesting comments there from head coach Robert Saleh. That was today. Those are fresh out of the package on Robert Saleh. And if you listen closely, I included a lot of the back and forth. I normally don't. Normally only reporter question then answer, but I included all the Q&A there so you guys could really get an understanding. Shout out to The Beat for really pressing Saleh on this. Robert Saleh said this is Mike White's opportunity. Obviously, they still want to get back Zach Wilson on the football field at some point this season. Again, they seem to be running out of time for that to be a reality. Again, the Jets are 7-5 right now. They've got 5 games left on the slate here to kind of figure out what's going to happen. So it doesn't seem like there's a lot of time to be able to work Zach Wilson back in if they're going to, and under what circumstance would that include. But when describing Mike White's opportunity to potentially make something happen, he seemingly left the door open, as Kaz just said there at the end. So you're saying Mike White could ruin that plan. You say the plan is to get Zach Wilson back on the field, but if Mike White continues to ball out, essentially saying without saying that he could ruin that plan, and thus Zach Wilson does not come back on the football field this season. I will say this. I love Zach Wilson. Obviously, he's had to eat a lot here because of some of those comments we talked about some of the John Beck stuff from Rich Cimini on Sunday, where he walked through some of these comments and talked about a few items in terms of whether or not he was surprised by the benching in general. Never thought he would be benched from that standpoint. We got those nuggets from John Beck speaking with Rich Cimini and how that situation's kind of developed. So it seems like Zach Wilson needed some humble pie, a guy who has been a king, silver platter all his life of being the guy. And finally, he was met with some adversity here, obviously, with, hey, man, you just got to work on the fundamentals. You got to work over there in the corner and work yourself back into the rotation to have an opportunity here. So obviously he's needed a lot of that, but he's a talented kid. There's a reason they took him number 2 overall. They're not just going to throw this guy that they invested the world into the garbage can. That's just not going to happen. So I know that will bother some Jet fans. I know that's going to rub some people the long way. Some people, I've been seeing some of your crazy comments on the Twitter sphere saying, oh, Zach Wilson's over. Let's move on. Mike White time. It's juicy. Mike White has looked great in his 2 starts. There's no question about it this season, or has looked really good for that matter. Very competent and has made some big-time throws. So he deserves a lot of the things that he's been getting, and we will see. You will have this revenge game opportunity against the Buffalo Bills. And before I play the final clip, which is a quick one for Robert Saleh, let's welcome in our esteemed and handsome guest himself, Will Parkinson from the Turn on the Jets podcast. Yes, let's bring him in. Will Pa joining us here on the show. What's up, Will?
Oh, what a last 24 hours, huh? Not the most fun Jets weekend. I took as many L's as anyone can possibly take in a weekend, but hey, still playing competitive December football, so I can't be too upset.
That's the thing, Will. I'm going to be honest. Not that I love this, but it's good to feel alive again because, when these December, gut-wrenching loss, right? Like the Jets had obviously all these chances to win that game. And then for them to lose it, I think I kind of reminisced about this on the drive in this morning, listening to the Badlands podcast. And I think Joe or Connor said something similar of like, man, that hurt. We haven't had one of those in a while. And I went back to think of like the last critically important December game, gut-wrenching, coulda, shoulda, woulda won. And the ripple effects of that have playoff implications, everything else. I'm like, man, I can't remember when the last critical one was. I mean, probably 7 years ago, the Buffalo Bills game, obviously, which was essentially a quasi-playoff game. But man, that hurt, but it hurt so good. Like, oh, yeah. That felt good to be talking playoff standings and playoff implications. And on the live show yesterday, we're talking about what games are happening here and there. Again, it felt good to be alive again, Will.
Yeah, look, I think they got helped out a little bit in the second window. You really look back at that Chargers game from 2 weeks ago, and you're like, damn, if the Chargers would have lost that game to Arizona, they'd be pretty much as good as dead at this point, knowing the rest of their schedule. Then you fully root for Miami this weekend. The Chargers basically get to 8 losses, and conference record would be bad, and you'd feel pretty good about them and the Patriots potentially both being out of it, and you kind of feel like you're playing for seeding. Look, yesterday hurt a lot. They were the better team. They were awful in the first half. I know I've seen a lot of my mentions today have not been this bad in a long time. It was a lot of Mike White sucks or Mike White was good. The defense was horrible in the first half. The offense was not very good in the first half. There was a million drops. Mike White wasn't great in the first half. The coaching wasn't great. Like everything was a mess. They're down 20-3 on the road against the number 2 seed in the NFC. And in the second half, they score very much 20 unanswered points essentially outside of that one drive. And they're, they were in the red zone 6 times. They outgained them by 200 yards. They lost the turnover battle, obviously, which is not good. And it's hard to win the NFL when you don't do that. But man, it's just, you look at that picture, 2 minutes to go, 3rd and goal. I guess it was 3rd and goal.
It was 1st and goal eventually. But yes, right.
Yeah,
the 2-minute thing. Yes,
2-minute warning. They're on the 2-yard line, and you're just going, man, like this is over. And then they get the ball back, and they got 2, if I'm not mistaken. And again, I could be wrong here. I'm sure someone will gladly correct me. Right away in the first 2 or 3 plays of the minute 19 left, I feel like they get down to like the 19 or 20-yard line with like 39 seconds left or whatever it was. And even then, I'm going first down, 39 seconds left, 20 yards to go. It's going to be difficult. They haven't executed in the red zone all day. And then, obviously, look, there's little plays you could point to from Mike White. There's little plays you could point to from a lot of different guys on the roster yesterday. It was one of those would have been a great team win and was going to be a great team loss. There was no everyone had a little bit of a part to play. I guess maybe outside of Garrett Wilson, but and man, it's frustrating. It's like football is such a game of inches. I know it's such a cliche, and I believe Garrett Wilson said as much or Sauce did, but Garrett Wilson's toe steps out of bounds, they win. Jackson Berrios I don't even know that he's ever had a drop with the Jets. I don't remember once. He's the most sure-handed. Joe Caparosa pointed this out, and I know everyone was pissed that Berrios got the ball, and I get it from a sense. But if you said, I need one catch from any guy on this roster, he's probably the most secure-handed guy. The ball's in his chest. Like, there's no way he drops it, whatever. That goes a different way. Corey Davis cuts a little bit to the right or doesn't get tripped up, they win. Or Garrett Wilson doesn't trip, or the
86-yarder. I shared that clip. I think it was either last night or this morning. Oh, someone had to remind me. So the live stream went through. We normally do about an hour on the live stream, and a fan reminded me of it, and I remembered the pain because it happened with like 5:24 remaining. But the Jets would have taken the lead undoubtedly on it. What would have been an 86-yard touchdown for Garrett Wilson, which by the way would have put him in the 250-yard mark for receiving at that point with 5 minutes to go. Which, by the way, looks like he's going to be the leading rookie Jets receiver of all time beyond Keyshawn. But that's the one that was painful. I was slamming the living room floor. Like, oh, Mike White, no pressure around him, pat the ball. Garrett Wilson just straight up roasted Patrick Peterson. Just pat the ball twice. Dropping in his bucket.
It's so annoying. It's like you rewatch it and it's like it's literally inches away because it was almost such a good throw, and I know he overthrew him a little bit, so I'm not trying to just compliment Mike White just to compliment him, but it was such a perfect deep ball hitting him in stride, he's just gonna walk in. It wasn't like this duck that was floating up there. I don't know. There's a lot of throws yesterday that, frankly, Mike White makes that Zach Wilson doesn't make right now, and I know people don't want to hear that, and I'm not saying White was perfect by any means. Again, I am not saying that. There was a few throws. It would be nice if the Jets receivers would help him out. At times, Tyler Conklin was atrocious yesterday. I think he's a nice player.
That was tough.
He had a really tough day. He had, you could really give him 3 drops on the day yesterday, and 3 drops and one that Mike White was a little high on. But I also was like, can you get a hand on that? So that was tough for Conklin. Corey Davis had the ultimate, the Corey Davis game. It was just the classic. two bad penalties, a drop. He's all over the place. Drop leads to a pick, and then it's makes up for it, breaks up the one that probably was more likely to be intercepted, and then and then has a couple big catches.
4th and 10.
Yeah,
I mean, come on,
huge.
Crazy.
So that was good from him. Bam Knight, makes one more guy miss again, he's gone, or all these different things. Look, it was interesting. I know Richard Meany tweeted it out, and I know everyone was really mad at that 3rd down call on the second to last drive, obviously, before they went to Bears.
The Garrett Wilson fade.
So that's talking about. I believe it's the same play they ran last week against the Bears that was wide open, and Garrett Wilson catches that corner fade from the slot. Sorry, I was just answers. But yeah, I just felt like it was a play that, I know he slipped, so everyone's pissed, and I get why people are like, oh, just run it there, or all these different things. I'm not disagreeing with you, but like both the plays worked. It's just he slipped. He's otherwise he's open. They get the matchup you wanted. Everyone's like, get Garrett Wilson the ball in the red zone. And I'm not just defending Michael LaFleur, but we can maybe back off the he should be fired today stuff. Like, dude, they've gotten 1,000 yards of offense the last 2 weeks with their quote unquote third string quarterback. So let's maybe. He was not good in the red zone yesterday. Again, I'm not.
Yeah, 1 for 6. Yeah,
but like Barrios should have scored on the screen pass instead of cutting it back out of bounds and then kind of screwed them. Or there's different stuff. Like it's again, I'm not trying to just say like White's perfect and LaFleur perfect and all that stuff. There's other plays like the play Elijah doesn't get his feet down. Like it was like mind blowing. You know what I mean? Like yesterday was just one of those games where the Jets have had some games where things have gone a little right for them. You'd hope that maybe, down the line here, maybe it's this week, the Jets get a bounce that they don't normally get. They didn't get this week and stuff like that because, even the Mims one, it feels like Mims has been playing well. And he, I don't know if he would have come down and down. Probably was a penalty, didn't get called. The refs were
definitely a penalty. Got early twice early in the game. And I said this, I tweeted it out. Like, so obviously, the Jets went on offense first, and 2 times a Vikings defender impeded. First, the Corey Davis pick was 100% early.
I think
and the second one,
Nani had tweeted out today, like the slow-mo.
Smart.
He's literally draped over his back. The ball's not even
That's
close.
Correct. And the Mims one was early. And I said to myself, like, okay, those were both penalties, but fine. If that's how you're going to call it, let's roll out the ball and let's play. We want to be physical. I will take our corners of Sauce and DJ Reed. If we're allowed a little extra, then let's play physical. But obviously that didn't happen. Multiple defensive holdings on the Jets. So that's one of my pet peeves as a football enthusiast is call it the same. You can't have this moving field goal post. To me, that's bullshit. If you're going to call it one way, fine. Keep it that way the whole game. Unfortunately, it wasn't. So, to your point, anything that could have went wrong seemingly went wrong in this game, and the Jets were able to overcome it to make it, obviously, this contest that they could have, should have, would have won at the end. But, yeah, that's definitely a pivot point there. I will say on the Michael LaFleur stuff over. I know that I saw those tweets from you. Those were hilarious. And
remember, if everyone remembers the Packers game, in which was the only other game this year where I was truly like, dude, this is. I mean, Brace Hall's 5 yards out of bounds, getting clipped. Like there's, they gave the Jets on a third down. They gave him a sideline interference call and all this stuff. Same crew. So I would be very aware. I know Connor Rogers pointed out on SNY pregame was like, this crew is not a big fan of physical defensive back play. We definitely saw that yesterday. No, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
No. We definitely saw that, and I love it. So I love that Connor called that out. Again, that's advanced stuff from Connor that you're not going to hear from your normal analyst. So shout out to Connor on that. And also, just quickly on the LaFleur thing, again, for everyone that's calling him out, and again, rightfully so for all the red zone stuff, in terms of the firing, that's too aggressive. He basically had nearly 500 yards of offense. It was 487 and change or something, but nearly 500 yards with what at one time was his third string quarterback. So the firing stuff needs to go away, especially if Saleh gave all the leash to Jeff Ulbrich that he did when everyone wanted his head on a pike. And he gave him a lot, even at the end of the year. The Michael K. Show interview, as fresh off Saleh's final press conference, they said, so Ulbrich? And he's like, come on, guys, it's been a year. And he gave him that benefit, and look what's happened this year. Mike LaFleur, who he literally has the familial connection to with Matt and everybody else, Mike LaFleur would have to basically this year the rest of this year be crap and next year be crap for me to even think about potentially changing that. So I think that has to be a factor as well.
He's gotten 4 quarterbacks to put up some production.
That's impressive. Yeah.
Look, I think again, is he perfect? No. I think, the comparison was made. I don't remember who made it. So someone can gladly tell me again if I missed something, but he was so good in the red zone last year when the Jets had very little talent. And obviously, again, we can really get into the quarterback. If you don't see the difference in the 2 offenses when Zach's playing versus Mike White or any of these other guys, I don't know what you're watching. But, he gets so gadgety and so much Barrios and all these different guys, and it's the throwbacks and, different formation, everything, right? Like, that's all great. But I also think Mike White executes the offense in a level enough that you can trust him down there.
Right. You don't need the gimmicky shit. Yeah.
The one place you see was that where you miss Zach, and it is will be giving Zach this. They did lean a little bit on the zone read stuff at the end of the year last year down by the goal line, and they did it once, I think, against Miami. I mean, Miami wasn't a zone read play, but I know he's took off.
And he dove for the end zone.
He dove. Like,
correct.
That's the only time where you'll see, I feel like you miss Zach. There was the one play, the third down with like 25, 39 seconds left, whatever it was, where he throws it to Elijah and everyone's like, run. I think he's thinking like, maybe I get 7 yards here, but it's still fourth down. So I don't know what the thinking was there, but outside of that, do we even know Zach would have taken off and run? Because it took like 10 weeks for him to like do it once. So I don't know.
Discover it, right.
Yeah. So it's just like, we're assuming that, like I said, the offense opened up in the second half. I think I'm curious how the Bills game will go. I know we'll get into it, I guess, but I'm curious how the offense will go. I think Connor Hughes pointed out the first half was all kind of handcuffs, short stuff, and they started to kind of open up the offense, and all of a sudden started to look pretty good. And they started to kind of expose where the Vikings are weaker. And the Vikings played well yesterday. They were situationally really good. Harrison Smith looked like Harrison Smith 4 or 5 years ago.
Golden Domer, baby. Yes.
They abused Max Mitchell the first quarter of the game. George Fant had a nice game outside of that. So, look, the Jets of old, the last 5, 6, 7 years, 20-3 at half on the road against a good team. That game's ending 36-40-10. We're getting a late Zach Wilson nice throw, like this, reminiscent of the Sam Darnold era, where we're getting the highlight. If this was Patrick Mahomes, it's on SportsCenter. We're all convincing
down
ourselves.
30, right?
Yeah. That doesn't happen. The Jets come out, they get points right before half, then come back, get points again. They chipped away, and again, no moral victories, and it's not perfect. Mike White needs to be better. Everyone needs to be better. But yesterday, overall, I think you leave that game going, why can't the Jets, compete this weekend in Buffalo and take – I'm sorry, Seattle's not very good. I'm not trying to, like –
okay, wow, here we go. Will Parkinson
I can't – everyone's just assuming that's a loss. Did you watch them against the Rams yesterday? Because the Rams are missing
Geno Smith magic at the end just to win.
Just to beat John Warford. Funniest, by the way, anyone that loves football and comedy, please go watch the end of that game. John Warford put everything in his body into it and threw it 29 yards.
Former Jets quarterback. That pick was bad. Right.
That was really he loaded up like he was gonna crow hop like a throw.
Oh, wait, it's right there. Yeah, that was hilarious.
I'm just like, I always read the comments, obviously. I know some people don't. I enjoy it. Guys, the reason Michael Ford doesn't call the same game for Zach that he does for Mike White is because they don't trust Zach right now, and they haven't pretty much at all. So it's not the same game plan. It's just, I don't know. It's not. The Mike White, it's so stupid in the little things, but there's 3 or 4 plays yesterday where Mike White, I think, was credited with 3 or 4 big time throws from PFF, which it's pretty impressive. Zach was credited with 2.
Yeah, that's a big time stat for people who don't understand what that means.
That's like
sometimes people roll their eyes to PFF numbers. 100%.
No, the PFF. By the way, me and you both agree on this. Yeah, PFF grades, the player grades are subjective to say the least. I think.
Yes, 100%.
They're obviously convenient when they look good and whatever. The deep analytics are really good from PFF. They do a really good job on the big time throws and different routes run and pressures and time to throw and all the deeper stuff that actually is meaningful. That stuff's important. So turnover worthy throws and things like that.
Correct.
I think they credited Mike White with 1 yesterday. I believe there was obviously the interception. If I'm not mistaken,
it has to be the interception at the end.
But other than that, no other one turnover worthy throw and 57 pass attempts is pretty good. And to have 3 big time throws is no joke.
Yeah.
I can't get over that 4th and 10th throw. If they win that game, we're replaying that as the Jets started their run towards, the AFC title game with that throw. It's just, it sucks.
That's ridiculous. The Michael, again, seeing it live, whoa, how the beep did he fit that in there? And then Michael giving us the, not the television broadcast angle, the over the top, and to see that tight coverage of Mike White. And again, Mike White, hopefully he's bringing his balls in on a wagon to make that throw. Again, I get it. It's 4th and 10, but to freaking look at that and step into it and freaking rip that puppy right between.
It was interesting. He maneuvered the pocket in order to get a better angle. It was on.
Correct.
He did it a couple of times yesterday. It's pretty interesting.
100%, which was very nice. Before we get any further, see, we're getting YouTube super chats in here. Those are magical, guys. I'm going to get to those. I want to play one more clip and get Will's reaction to this. It's a very quick clip from Saleh at the end of his presser. You'll hear the question here asked about the possibility of Mike White as QB1 moving forward and the Zach Wilson situation. Just hear the full question. Here's the answer we'll hear from Will here in a second.
I asked Mike LaFleur this the other day, but are you at least open to the possibility that Mike White is your long-term quarterback and just happens to be a better football player than Zach Wilson? Is that at least a possibility that could happen?
1 week at a time. 1 week at a time, guys.
There he is, head coach Roberts, smiling and saying 1 week at a time earlier in the press conference. It was the clip we played at the beginning of the show. Roberts, in like back-to-back questions, he said, this is Mike White's opportunity. We'll see what he can do with it. And he intimated that, if Mike White runs with this thing, it's all his. And the reporter followed up and said, so is that what you're saying? And he's like, is that a backdoor hypothetical? Wink. And it's like, oh, I see. So again, it just feels like Robert Saleh has just gotten more savvy with the media on his answers, and everyone is properly motivated here. But Will, what was your take on that? It had people buzzing on Twitter.
Yeah, look, I saw that, and the plan still to have Zach play and all that stuff. Look,
correct.
We've talked about this. Robert Saleh's done a really good job this year of learning from his mistakes. I'll reiterate this. After the first Patriots game where Zach pooped himself in the second half, the Jets lose. There was a lot of questions internally, externally by Jets fans, NFL people, like maybe Zach's not it. And after those interceptions, it was a mess, right? And Robert Saleh was like, Zach's our starter unless he gets hurt. Obviously, Zach did not get hurt. 2 weeks later, included 2 weeks plus the bye, so 3 weeks later, Zach was benched. And people were obviously, critical of Robert Saleh. Oh, what's up, dude? You just said that he wasn't, he's a starter no matter what, and now he's benched. Now he's not only benched, he's the third-string quarterback, and, basically he's unplayable. So I think he's doing his best, and, he did this last year with Mike White. They're taking it week by week. Connor Hughes tweeted it. He beat me to it because I was going to tweet the same thing. Everyone's like, oh, what would people say if the Jet, what would fans say? Well, dude, the players are telling you who they want to play quarterback. I don't know what else.
Very clearly.
You.
Yeah.
Garrett Wilson said he would, go to war and take a bullet for Mike White yesterday. You know what I mean? Like, when Zach Wilson was playing, like they got into it a little bit, obviously. You hear the comments after the game and stuff like that. So I don't want to bash Zach all the time. And I don't really feel like I am. I feel like sometimes people think I'm bashing him. It's not that. Right now, he's not like the answer for them. Like he does not give them the best chance to win every Sunday. And, the expectations have changed. This is a year that it feels like, I know probably nobody here watches soccer other than me, but, again, it was like the World Cup this year where like anything can happen on any given day because of the timing, because it's just one of those weird years where you want to just get in the tournament and all of a sudden, who knows? I don't know. I think he's taking it week by week, but unless Mike White goes out there and goes like 10 of 40 with 5 interceptions or gets hurt, like I just don't think. What are you going to then bench him if he plays pretty well against Buffalo and Minnesota for Detroit and Jackson? Like, what's the point of that? The team clearly likes playing for him. He looks, he looks more effective running this offense, and that's kind of that. I think it's kind of, straightforward. So
just to clarify that you believe Saleh's comment that he's continued to bat out there, that the intent is still to get Zach Wilson on the football field. And a reporter, by the way, I think it was Kaz, but a reporter, when he said that, he's like, well, Saleh, there's 5 games left and you're in the thick of the playoffs. What circumstance could possibly equate where, because again, if you're winning, then why would you put him in there? And somehow if you're eliminated, which seems really hard, even mathematically, for that to happen, unless the Jets just lost out, which doesn't seem
if
likely.
They lost the next 3 or something, or 4 games, and all of a sudden they're, whatever, I guess 3 games and they're 7-8 and like whatever, 7-9, and like the game doesn't
whatever
matter.
It would be, right?
You're giving they need to make the playoffs. This roster is not going to look the same next year. Obviously, there's a ton of youth, and they're gonna, they'll bring back who they want to bring back, and the cap's going up the highest it'll ever be, and the Jets will figure it out, and they've got some big money guys that'll walk. But I just don't see an avenue in which Mike White's not the starter the rest of the year. Again, do I think Mike White's the franchise guy? Not right now, no. I think he's a guy that I think we should see what he has the next 5 games. And if he, hopefully it's a 6 game, right? And you get 8 Mike White starts, including a playoff, and it's 2 or 3 years in the system, and maybe it's Mike White and whoever. I don't know. Obviously, Jimmy Garoppolo's hurt, and whatever the veteran, it's Goff or it's Brissett or it's or it's a higher level Garoppolo, Carr or whatever it is. Lamar obviously is the pipe dream, but like I feel like Mike White's. I said this to a couple of people today, and I don't. Maybe I'm crazy, but I feel like Mike White's almost competing with Zach to see who competes with somebody else next year. Like I almost feel like it's like, you know what I mean? It's like they're both. Zach obviously, you have no idea, but if Mike White plays really well, like what are you going to let Mike White walk, and then you bring in because obviously the notion, I think Breer reported it. I think we saw something from Rapp or from Schefter that like, they plan to have Zach back in 2023 and compete with a veteran. Mm-hmm. Well, like, what if Mike White's just better than Zach? So then you have Mike White compete. You know what I mean? Like, that's this stuff to me. It's like, isn't that more of an interesting question of like, which one of those guys is the guy competing? Again, I don't know if Mike White's the answer. I just know right this second on December 5th at 4:45 Eastern, he gives the Jets the best chance to win on Sunday. And I don't really think that's that debatable, if we're being honest.
No, and I believe that, and I think you may have tweeted this, someone else may have, that there is separate thoughts allowed to be had where Mike White is the best option for the Jets right now, but he's also not the franchise savior we have to build a statue for. That both of those two things could be true. Let's get into a bunch of comments here. We have a Jets Cubs fan 29. I love it. $5 thrown in. Thank you so much for the YouTube super chat. You can see the highlighted color here for supporting the show. Thanks, buddy. Got an early Christmas present from the wife and sister. Plane ticket to Fort Lauderdale and primo seat to Jets Dolphins, which of course is week 18. That is in Miami. Could be a win, and you're in. Can't wait. I will say this, Jets Cubs fan 29. I think it is guaranteed to mean something for somebody, whether it's winning you're in, and obviously in the best case scenario, some level of division implications of winning could decide who wins the division, which would be spectacular. That's a great game. And again, being in Miami in December is being in New York in December or January. Actually, that's when that would be. So fingers, awesome gift. And guys, a shout out there. I hope I got a Christmas gift of that caliber. Juicy. I love it. That's fantastic. And by the way, we will be getting into the Bills game as well here on the show in that rematch opportunity, of course, for Mike White. And again, I saw another YouTube super chat in here, so I want to make sure I get to you guys first. And again, you guys can all share your comments in if you'd love. If you'd love to, we'll 100% get to those. So shout out to Jets Cubs fan 29, setting the bar for Christmas gifts. We have Armando coming in with a $10 super chat. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. Hi, Paul Will. I'm effing angry still. Therefore, I must cook LaFleur. Going empty set on the goal line. Paul Will, where do they do that at? I will say this. The one thing right off the top for me, Will, is that when you run empty set, and Salo was asked this at his presser today, like you eliminate just even the threat of a run outside of, like, again, that's also the difference between Zach Wilson and Mike White. They ran this more so in year one. I don't think they've run this once with Zach Wilson this year in his starts. Is the QB draw. You get the set and they're like, oh shit, this is a pass. So they kind of lean back a little bit, especially at the second and third levels, even on the red zone. All of a sudden, Zach Wilson QB draw fakes it, goes in, you're like, ah, damn, because Zach Wilson's got wheels that people are not. Again, he's not Lamar Jackson, he's not Justin Fields, but he's got deceptive speed where he could go in there and make a play. So with Mike White back there, who's got some level of mobility, I think he could have gotten in the end zone on that one if he would have had more conviction once he decided to run, but he kind of stopped and tried to juke and do all this other crazy crap. Like, he's not that guy. Just run straight and as fast as you can. That's the thing that I will say with you, Armando, that I agree with. Even a running back in that you even send out for like a running back swing, which are quasi running plays, just getting the ball to their playmakers in open space. The threat of the run would have been important because the defense would have had to think about something. When it was purely pass, they could just back up and say, okay, throw it. So that's the thing I didn't like. But play some Monday morning quarterback. Well, what did you think of that?
Yes, LaFleur does that quite a bit. With the empty stuff on short yardage and all that type of stuff. Don't love it. It's obviously depending, sometimes it's, sometimes it works. It spreads the defense out. You can have a lot of stuff crossers and, if you can protect long enough on short yardage like that and empty, you get a lot of free, it could bust wide open, right? And you get this, big gainer. And, again, we pretty much, at third down, like we saw why they did it. They went empty. Elijah ran in. You were hoping Garrett Wilson basically has, half the field to kind of work with in the end zone and win. Obviously he slips, so it doesn't work. Look, I wish they would, not go empty so much. It becomes a tendency and people start to kind of, start to adjust to it. That's what people do. They've adjusted a little bit to the gadget stuff with the Jets. Now it's time to kind of maybe be more direct. You can play Monday morning quarterback with every play.
Right.
I'm not gonna do that with the Braxton Berrios play. I refuse to say
the drop.
Dude,
it was a good play. He just dropped it.
It's a good play.
So,
he's wide open. It hits him right in the chest. Like, it's a good throw. I'm not going to crush that.
That works 9 times out of 10. So that's kind of again, it sucks, and I get fans that are pissed at it. But for me, my realization is, all right, like, again, I was pissed and still angry. But at the end of the day, I'm like, 9 times out of 10, that mother trucker right there, he's catching that ball and the Jets win the game. He dropped that one, and that one, you just look at the Vikings, give them a handshake, say, hey, we dropped it, you won. And again, it's not just that the Jets blew all these opportunities. Vikings, obviously, super talented freaking football team. To have 9 wins, which is a franchise record for the Vikings, in one-score games being 9-0, and just 9 wins in general in one-score games, just speaks to them. They got that internal extra gear where they just figure crap out, and they got a lot of talent to do so. So tip of the cap to them, but 100% to your point. Again, Berrios catches that 9 times out of 10. It was the one time where he dropped it.
Yeah, look, unfortunately, these things happen. Yeah, look, I'd like to see Elijah Moore maybe get a little more touches. I saw some people mentioning
for
that.
Sure. We got the jet sweep. We saw that in the game. That was nice.
Elijah gets one of those screens instead of Berrios, but I think they like the way Berrios runs the football. They trust him. Again, usually he's very sure-handed. He's generally pretty tough to tackle. He's got that returner mindset where he can make 1 or 2 guys miss. Again, I don't know. It's just like they weren't good in the red zone yesterday. There was a lot of different things. There's drops, there's penalties, there's bad play calling, there's Mike White missing people, there's Mike White hitting people and them not catching it. There's, it's just everything went wrong yesterday. The Vikings made a couple really nice plays. I think the Jets, maybe it was 3 minutes or so left when they first got down there and they wanted to make the Vikings burn timeouts. It was pretty clear. They ran the ball up the middle and they almost scored the first time. Then the second time they got stuffed. But that, to me, was pretty clear they were trying to run the clock down. Obviously, I don't think they said that. Maybe I'm wrong, but my read was
they did not. No,
my read was they knew the Vikings had 3 timeouts. They knew best case they go up 3. Like, even if they got the touchdown and 2-pointer, they were best case. So the Vikings still could have tied it. They would have had, maybe the Jets score right away and the Vikings have 3 timeouts in 3 minutes just to get a field goal. And I think they were they got a little cute, at least from my perspective of what I assume was happening. Again, this is my opinion. I think they were trying to get cute there and make the Vikings. It worked. They made the Vikings take 2 timeouts, right? Like, the Jets score there at the end of the game. The Vikings are screwed. They have 1 timeout left. They're done. So, it's the problem is then you don't score and you got to give 2 plays. And like the Jets got the ball again. We can crush them that whole time, but they got the ball back and they almost scored again. So
that's true.
It's tough.
It is.
It's tough.
Let's get to another YouTube super chat. Esmon Abad Acosta, my main man. What's poppin', baby? What's up, guys? Hey, let's incorporate tight end sneaks. I'll be honest. I don't know if Mike LaFleur would ever admit this, although he sort of has, but not directly. So the Dolphins got it on the Jets in the first matchup where I don't think it was Gesicki. I think it was like Durham Smythe or something. Went under center, like the quarterback like fakes that he's like calling a different play. The Bears ran a wildcat play on this where the Dolphins tight end goes right under center and you're not expecting it. And they QB sneak it and get it in the end zone. And so the Jets got quote unquote on that play, but they ran it a different time later from Tyler Conklin. I don't think Tyler Conklin scored on that play a few weeks later when they tried it. So that would be creative. And again, to me, I think that's where I was at as well, Will. When I was looking at this, Jets had 1st and goal, but the Vikings had 3 timeouts. So you're trying to think like, okay, we want to score here, but not give them too much time. We do trust our defense, but this and this and this. But again, at the end of the day, of course, the optimal goal, and Charles Davis and company were talking, and Ian Eagle, they were talking about this in the broadcast. You do, of course, have to score to win. So it is kind of this fine line going back and forth. So I would have been fine with that personally. Again, instead of that 3rd and goal fade route, which again is a low percentage play because you need Garrett Wilson to execute, you got him to catch, get the feed in. There's a lot of things that go into that. Just run it up the gut, force that final timeout, and then at the very least, unless you completely blew it, you didn't go backwards. So it's even that much closer to potentially do a QB sneak with Mike White, who's 6'4", or something of that nature. That would have been the concern. But I love this from Esmon. We saw it earlier this year, and I wouldn't have been mad at that. Conklin was having a rough game, so I'm not sure if it's Uzama or who would have done that.
Yeah, maybe on that third. I don't know. Quarterback sneak's just weird. Like, you would have loved to see them try it again. It worked both times. They tried it, earlier in the game. Again, hindsight's 20/20. Like, it's just, and I said it yesterday, and yes, it's obviously as simple as it gets. I was like, if Braxton Berrios catches that ball, it's first world problems. We weren't efficient enough in
Right.
the red zone.
Yeah.
They weren't
Yeah.
efficient the whole game though. It was play over and over. It's the one Garrett Wilson clearly gets held. It's a good throw. Garrett Wilson gets held and a corner out, and it's like that's first and goal to 2 with 4 times to score it. And they don't. And it's the block in the back when that should have been an easy walk-in touchdown. All of a sudden, it's 20-13 right out of half, and you're like, boom, here we go. It's again, Garrett Wilson doesn't slip on that play call. We're going, wow, great play call from him because Garrett Wilson's catching that football. The ball was put in a good spot. Of course. Garrett Wilson's an absolute monster, and it's like we're talking about a guy that's or again, it's the game of inches. None of this matters if, White hits, throws the ball a yard shorter to Garrett Wilson, that double move. And Garrett Wilson's got 10 catches for 250 yards and a touchdown. And we're talking about, is this guy a Pro Bowler? And, is he going to all of a sudden push to be like is he in that Waddle conversation of like the second best receiver in the division outside of Tyreek? You know what I mean? Like that's what we're talking about. Is he right behind Diggs? And, I still think he might be right behind Diggs and Tyreek in the division. In that
could be
him and Jalen Waddle competing for that third, best. But yeah, look again. I'll keep saying it. The first half was awful. The defense was
brutal.
Really bad in the first half. Third down, they couldn't get off the field. There's bad penalties. Kirk basically threw up an absolute duck when he was getting murdered on that play, and both safeties don't turn their head. Both safeties and the corner don't turn their head. Sauce didn't have really many bad plays at all yesterday. I don't know if it was Sauce or somebody else, or it was the coverage, but like 4th and 2.
Get the frick up, man.
And Sauce is playing like 7 yards off, and it's like respecting this deep route. Like, so clearly going to be a sticks play. You know what I mean? Like,
yes,
it was just
frustrating.
Right after Darrelle Revis just said, pay attention to down and distance.
Man up, hold up. Right. You tweeted out the clip. It goes viral. Darrelle Revis's advice this week. Well, I guess technically it's New England week for Ring of Honor, but dude, when I saw they did that on so many 3rd and shorts and 4th and shorts, the 4th one, obviously the 4th down was the one that jumps out. But I'm like, well, Sauce, we're a little off here, pal. And then they get it. I'm like, dude,
and
what
then
the
they
hell,
adjust.
man?
Yeah, but then they adjust in the second half.
They did.
Negative 8 yards the Vikings had, and I don't know. It was a crazy second half. Obviously, the Jets were that terrible in the first half, great in the second half. They have got to stop starting slow, though. By the way,
you can't afford to do that against really good.
Realistically, the Bills game they started really slow. They got lucky with it. They didn't get lucky. It was a good play by Jordan Whitehead, but they got lucky with that. The Bills didn't, get out to a bigger lead. First half. New England obviously was not a good start. Chicago is not a good start from a defensive perspective, and then yesterday was not a good start.
Being on the road in Buffalo this week, that is going to be so paramount because Bills Mafia are a bunch of wild bastards. And
you want to make them play from behind.
Crazy,
you want to make them one-dimensional and say we'll bracket Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis go beat us, who can't track a football right now. So
right. Let's get another one in here. NY Jet Situation Report, a great YouTube channel to follow. He's doing giveaways left and right. Garrett Wilson has proven he's elite under White at quarterback. Since White QB1, he's 1st in yards, 1st in yards after catch, and 2nd in 15-plus yard receptions. Keyshawn record is toast. By the way, he's about 50 yards away, and he's got 5 games to go. So I would imagine it is toast. Hopefully on the first play of the Bills game, an 80-yard touchdown to his house would be very nice. That's a thing that I'm both struggling with also on the Zach Wilson conversation because he's had all these weapons. Like our excuse in the past is, well, Sam Darnold didn't have enough weapons. Like this time, there's none of those excuses. So for Zach Wilson, not to bring it back to this, but like Garrett Wilson, obviously, and I get there was, Joe Flacco and then Zach Wilson going back and forth. So you have to figure things out. Chemistry can't be manufactured. You missed some critical time in the preseason. But however, like Garrett Wilson with Zach Wilson looks like a rando. And then all of a sudden, anyone else at quarterback, he looks like the second coming of Jesus. Like, oh, the Red Sea has been split. Oh my, Garrett Wilson, superstar, wide receiver 1. And for good reason, by the way. His wiggle, his release, his body control, his ability to, jockstrap aisle 3 when you cut ankles and break them all over the place. Like, he is a freak. That's the thing that's hard for me on the Zach Wilson stuff. And hopefully one day, I think 2023, where he can really get to the meat and potatoes of the issues that he's having with simple accuracy stuff, and no matter who he's competing with. Hopefully he's able to get that in, because there's no excuse for the talent of this caliber. Elijah Moore got a few opportunities, nowhere near as good as the Bears game, but Garrett Wilson in particular, like, he just shows that he commands wide receiver one attention. He had 15 targets in the friggin' game, and I joked live on the stream yesterday, and Joe Capitro talked about it in Badlands when I was driving in this morning, but damn, he had 15 targets, but still didn't feel enough. Like, he didn't get into the game early enough. That's just how special, dynamic he is. And holy crap, NY Jet Situation Report, you are right. Freaking Garrett Wilson is a freaking stud muffin. This guy is a superstar, and it's his rookie freaking season. This is not supposed to happen in this way with these monster 160-yard games. He's had multiple of them this season. I mean, this kid's a freaking freak. It's year one, Will.
Yeah, look, he's been really good.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't even, there's not really, trying to think of the best way to describe it. It's like, he's just one of those guys right now that it feels like the ball touches his hands, good things happen. You know, he's been awesome. Yeah. Like I know it's like, it's not really an exciting take. It's just, he's been really good. And
yeah,
there's a pretty good path to him kind of getting, 1,200, 1,300 yards this year, if the way he's been playing, which would be pretty insane considering there was games this year where he was pretty much not effective because of the way the offense was being called. So people don't get upset about it. Not just Zach, but
right.
In the Packers game, what do you have? One catch for 7 yards. He did. That was obviously a big learning experience for him. Going against Alexander had him. But since then, it feels like, I don't know. I feel like every time Garrett Wilson touches the ball, something good happens, and he makes plays. He's fantastic. He's a maniac. He's always talking to himself, and it's fun to watch. And it's fun to watch, and he's a guy that you kind of we're going to start to pencil in as a 12 to 1,400 yard receiver every year, and feel really good about it.
And by the way, potential. So we say Breece Hall, right? Again, Breece Hall is another guy who started incredibly slow. Before he got going, we're like, oh, man, lock it in, baby. Offensive rookie of the year, Breece Hall is destroying fools. And Garrett Wilson's somewhat of an afterthought. Like, he had the Cleveland game, you're like, oh, maybe. But again, there was the lack of consistency and movement of quarterback. All of a sudden, Kenneth Walker gets hurt. Dameon Pierce has been very hit and miss lately. Like, in a field, and quarterbacks haven't really been. Kenny Pickett, sort of, but he, didn't get in till, a couple games in the season. Like, it seems like a clear path for Garrett Wilson, like almost out of nowhere. All your BetMGM bet, shout out to Connor Rogers and all those guys with the happy hour. But like, it seems like Garrett Wilson could kind of break out of the pack here and start breaking wild down the stretch with Mike White seemingly the QB1 for the rest of the way, and a lot of opportunities for Garrett Wilson to say, whoa, out of nowhere, maybe this is the offensive rookie year. And if he was, he would be the first Jets offensive rookie of the year in franchise history. It has never happened before. So it could be kind of special. From that standpoint, let's transition to the Jets-Bills game. We'll get another YouTube super chat here from Frankie on our YouTube channel. Thanks, Frankie. Thanks for jumping in here. And I will ask Frankie's and kind of state Frankie's comment, but also work in a question as well. Frankie says Mike is the best chance for a playoff run. Mike White. Miami, Patriots, and Chargers all look fluky. White can redeem himself against Buffalo. Conklin, Davis, shaky. Win 10, you're in. Again, I 100% agree. I think if you get 10, you're in. Also, I looked at the schedules on my radio show this morning for Patriots, Chargers, and everybody else. Again, the Patriots finish off the season against Bills, Dolphins, and Bengals. All three of those could be losses. They're eliminated. And Chargers have some tough ones as well, including Miami this week. So we'll kind of see what kind of happens from that standpoint. But I want to ask you, Mike White, the one demon in his closet. So he's had 5 starts, and one of them kind of even doesn't count because he only played a quarter. So remove that out. He's had 2 of his 4 starts, obviously, this season. And he's been spectacular. The Bears game was really good. And then this past game, he had a lot of really good that you look forward to. What's your gut say? Does he quell his demons? And at the very least, we'll talk about win or loss and prediction at the end, but at the very least, does he redeem himself and he's competent and he doesn't implode the way that he did in that Bills game? Is that or does he implode and we're like, oh boy, back to Zach Wilson? Those people are bubbling beneath the surface. I can see them. As soon as Mike White implodes, you're like, aha, Zach Wilson time, baby. And perhaps that's what happens. But what does your gut say in that realm on that conversation heading into Bills-Jets rematch?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know It's hard to tell how he'll do. No Von Miller's huge.
Sure.
Matt Milano will be
Oh,
back,
massive.
so that's definitely something that I think the Bills fans will be confident about. Matt Milano against some of the Jets running backs and kind of coverage and things of that nature. But then again, the Bills defense hasn't looked quite as good as maybe I think we probably thought early in the year. They were awesome. The Jets were able to move the ball, somewhat against Buffalo, and obviously turnovers are big, and you got to win that turnover battle again. But I don't know if Mike White's going to go out there and throw for 400 yards again. But I also don't think he's going to. I don't think he's going to go 10 of 40 either with 4 interceptions. I mean, maybe he does, and he looks awful. And we're having a whole crazy conversation next week about who should start against Detroit, who's a terrible defense. But I really think that you've seen a different Mike White this year. I don't think. Again, am I saying he's a world beater? No, I think he's playing at a much different level and than he was even a year ago. I felt like last year there's a lot of checkdowns, a lot of like kind of getting cute and trick plays. They ran that running back, they ran that outside zone back pass like 7 times last year in 2 games. I felt like they're, throwbacks at left and right. Mike White's spray chart yesterday was pushing the ball down the fields at all 3 levels. Again, started out the game, checked down Charlie a little bit, and then kind of opened up and, and really started to push the ball down the field. I mean, he threw the ball down the field quite a bit, 10 to 20 yard range, but also 20 plus. Again, I think they'll be, I don't know if they're going to win on Sunday, but I think Mike White will be competent enough to be able to, to win.
Well, that's good.
Also,
enough
of the guys. The QBR. I'm sorry. Like Zach Wilson last year had a 91 QBR against the Jaguars and threw for 91 yards. Like sometimes it's nice, but like I'm not just gonna like say
it's a supportive stat to me. I don't. Right. It needs other context. I don't just say, "Wow, this guy had," whichever rating you go with, either ESPN straight up the 158.3 or the straight up 0 to 100, the more advanced QBR. Whichever you go with, again, I think it is whatever the word is, negligent to just say, "Wow, 86 point like completion percentage, adjusted completion percentage." Like there's a million stats that I want.
A week ago, he had a 92 QBR. So cool.
Right.
Like, I don't know. Sometimes the eyes could just tell you. I didn't say he was amazing yesterday. Again, this keeps happening. Like, oh, cool. Kirk Cousins was not good yesterday. 89 QBR, perfect. You're proving my point. That's great. Kirk Cousins was pretty awful yesterday. Other than 1 or 2 throws, he was really bad. He was missing guys high. He missed wide open people. But again, turnovers obviously ding your QBR big time. The first pick, I'm not giving was it a perfect throw? I'm sure someone could point that it's like it was 1 inch off the right shoulder pad as opposed to the left one. Like, cool. It's also PI and bounced off Corey Davis's chest. The second interception Mike White threw was 4th down and basically game on the line. They had no timeouts left. Maybe you have 2 plays there if you're best. It wasn't some good throw. Like, he got intercepted.
Right, he didn't want the game to end. Mike White said this after the game. It was 4th down, by the way. He didn't want the game to end in his hands, and he just gets sacked. So he wanted to give him a chance. Again, some people were saying Elijah Moore was streaking across, and maybe he does something. But again, at the end of the day, 1 interception was either PI. At the very least, it was tip. We can't argue about that. The PI, we can make some conversations about. And the other one was at the end of the game on 4th down. So, I mean, if we want to really start nitpicking and cherry picking stats, that may be a level of context.
Not saying he was amazing yesterday. Just think he was more than adequate to win that football game. That's it.
That's a good way to put it. Again, I agree. He was checkpoint Charlie in the beginning of the game, throwing short of the sticks. I hate that. I don't know if that was a Mike White thing or a LaFleur schemed thing. I don't know. I don't have the full playbook selection. I don't get to see what the option routes were and things of that nature. But there was a lot of checkpoint Charlie. But the thing that made me feel good about Mike White moving forward is the ball sack throw on 4th and 10, which was exceptional, and rallying the team. They were down 20-3 at one point of the game in hostile territory against a 9-2 team, and he rallied the troops and a combination of elite defense at the end that gave the offense multiple chances to get back into it and getting them into the red zone 6 times. Now, they only cashed in on 1 of those 6 in terms of that touchdown percentage that we're looking for, but I think that's important as well. Another YouTube super chat here, and we'll be getting off here in a few minutes. But Armando coming in, Paul Will, it seems to be a recurring theme. What the hell is going on with these missed tackles, and why aren't these coaches calling players out? First off, Robert Saleh has been very adamant from the beginning of this regime of him as a head coach that he's not the guy that's going to be ripping people on the sideline and outside of rare circumstances where like Quincy Williams in the preseason, when he clearly hit Jalen Hurts out of bounds, he went like, Quincy knows better. That's bullshit, blah, blah, blah. Outside of those rare circumstances, he does not call up players in that theme and pressers, at least in all of my memory. But the first part of what you said, this is a legitimate question out there. Like, the Jets have not been good at tackling, and they've had some of the PFF highest missed tackles over the last like 3 games. They've had 2 of the highest of this NFL season. So it's not been good. But my question is, if you just suck at tackling, what can happen in the middle of the season where a switch flips and all of a sudden you're good at tackling? So I feel like a couple of those issues, like Whitehead, Joyner at safety, and then CJ Mosley when he's caught off, like, obviously he doesn't have the same speed and explosiveness that he once did. And even at his prime, he wasn't even great in coverage on mono-y-mono running backs. So some of the tackling issues, I think you just kind of got to live with, and it's unfortunate and it sucks, but get better tacklers at safety and other positions. The safeties are the last line of defense, so that is a lot more apparent in your face. But my question, like Willie to Will and the world, is if you suck at tackling, what is going to randomly change? Like, you can work on your techniques, you can really drill it in practice, but at the end of the day, it's just sacking up. You're either going to make the tackle or you're not going to make the tackle. I don't know if it could be that simple, Will.
Yeah, I mean, you continue to try to teach tackling technique, but sometimes it's an effort thing. Sometimes it's just a technique thing. Yeah, look, some of the tackling's not great, but there's other times where the tackling's really good. So it's, yeah, I don't really have – Salah's not going to call players out publicly. You don't get to become a big-time players coach if you're a guy that's consistently calling out his players. So, like, if people are expecting that to happen, it's not going to, as you mentioned. But these guys still get criticized behind closed doors. It's just Robert Salah's not going to embarrass his guy. Like, the Jets cut Jason Pinnock, and Robert Saleh's like, he could be an all-pro, and you know what I mean? Like, they just, that's how he is. He's just not. I just wouldn't get too. Chris Sims was right about Joe the plumber running the team. Interesting.
Yeah, I just saw that one coming.
That was an interesting one. Salute. Definitely have zero bias based on that picture, profile picture, and name. Chris Sims was way out of bounds on that one, by the way. So I don't really. The Jets did not bench Zach Wilson because WFAN callers, like, the Jets don't care. No team cares. Trust me. They don't care what I have to say or Paul has to say or anybody. Like, they're going to make the decisions best for them.
Correct.
Yeah, tackling sometimes an effort thing, sometimes it's a technique thing, and they trust me. They talk about it behind closed doors. It's just they're never going to call these guys out publicly unless it's something so egregious, as you mentioned, a big penalty or something dumb that cost the team points.
All right, a couple quickies before we get you out of here. So Jimmy Garoppolo, broken foot. He's out for the season. Unfortunate news there for the San Francisco 49ers. By the way, I thought the 49ers were looking like a team that maybe could make a run to the Super Bowl. I'm not sure I'm buying into Brock Purdy, although Jets legend Josh Johnson's out there now. So we'll see. And Baker Mayfield was cut this week. So perhaps he could get over there. But Connor Hughes tweeted out shortly after that news came out that this is direct news to the Jets, obviously indicating Jimmy Garoppolo becoming a free agent possibly this offseason. He can't be franchise tag, so he would have hit free agency in one form or fashion, and that affecting the Jets with this broken foot. And again, we don't know any of the details about the broken foot. How bad was the break? How long will he be out? And all the other effects of that nature. But to you, with this news, does this affect the Jets possibly being interested in Jimmy Garoppolo with this injury and potentially bringing in a guy for a lot of money probably that is coming off an injury, and he's only had a full season once in his career where he started a full season, and he's had some injury issues.
I know this was one of those years where it felt like Jimmy could kind of break a lot of the molds of could he take his team to a title, and could he go win the big game? Obviously, he's won a lot of big games in his career, but Jimmy Garoppolo is not the most durable football player. I think that's probably the main concern you would have with him paying him the money, right? Like, I think. I don't know that it affects him in terms of that because, like, I think a broken foot's not an upper body injury, and it's not a ligament injury where it's maybe he needs surgery. I don't know the extent, as you mentioned. If it's a Liz Frank injury and he's out for 9 to 12 months, I mean, that's a whole nother discussion. If it's a broken foot, it's a broken foot, and he's in a boot for 6 weeks, and whatever, that's a whole other discussion. That's a common injury, but again, injuries pile up. You don't get healthier as you get older, and it is weird, how some guys just can't catch a break. And I think there would have been serious interest with Jimmy Garoppolo and the Jets. I think from the system, the staff, the talent around him, it all made a lot of sense. Jimmy would be a star in New York. There's no question about that. He's a damn good football player, and I think you would look at the Jets that they could compete with anybody with him at quarterback, similar to how you think the Niners can. Yeah. But again, I don't know. I don't want to say I don't know if it changes things, but it's hard for me to imagine. Like, I think people already knew he was kind of not that durable, so a broken foot's not going to necessarily change it. But again, I don't know. It's hard to imagine if he would have won the Super Bowl, he would have walked. Now it's really hard to tell what would have happened.
Yeah, and let me also give the news again, because we do this show after the Saleh presser, then we'll get a prediction and get you out of here. Saleh confirmed that Zach Wilson, the plan is for him to be inactive this week again. I guess someone could get injured, and then thus he would be stepped in. But the plan right now from the Jets is Zach Wilson healthy scratch again, which means Mike White QB1, Joe Flacco QB2. Robert Sarr described the quarterback situation as, quote, status quo, so we will see moving forward. So let's wrap it up, Will, with a Bills prediction, and here's my take on it. I feel like all the pressure's on Buffalo. The Jets weren't even supposed to win one of these games against the Buffalo Bills this year, according to all the experts, in heavy quotations, experts out there. Okay, so the Jets already won one, so all the pressure's on Buffalo. It's not gravy for the Jets, but that's the term I'm using. It's obviously not. It's a very important game. Obviously, if the Jets win, the division and all kinds of other things are at stake here if they win. But it seems like all the pressure's on Buffalo, and I like that for a Jets who, at a bare minimum, you even with the Bills, and best case, you sweep them, which if somehow the Jets sweep the Bills and then got swept by the Patriots in the same season, I'm not too quite sure what is up and what is down and what the hell that means, but that's perhaps for a different day. So, Will, with all of that hoopla being said, prediction, Jets, Bills, Jets heading to Buffalo, what are your thoughts on this?
I think it goes one of two ways. The spread seems big. I mean, 10 points.
Oh my gosh!
9.5,
yeah,
10 points.
Yeah, 9.5 open. Seems rich.
It's just weird because the Jets were. It feels like Mike White was getting a lot more respect the last 2 weeks from Vegas that more than Zach Wilson did. So you'd expect. I think the Bills were like +7 or something like that last time they played it in the Meadowlands. So I mean, I guess they kind of just basically gave it the same spread.
So they're saying that the quarterback difference made no difference, is what they're saying. Because normally 3 points per home, right?
Yeah, so it was a little odd. I don't know. It's hard for me to tell. I do want to see, if Deion Dawkins and guys like that play for the Bills.
100%. There's a lot of injuries and things. This is in early
in the week.
Yes.
I'm gonna go 27-20 Bills. I think it's a much closer game. I think maybe Buffalo just has a little too much in the end. Maybe it's a similar game to yesterday where it comes down to the last drive and one team, whoever's the football last, wins the football game. The weather also is going to be interesting, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I'm curious.
What's the weather? Do we have anything on that?
Let's look it. We'll look it up. Weather Buffalo.
Yeah. Let me get this.
All right, so let's see. I'm going to use the Weather Channel here. So,
okay, there you go. All right, Will Parkinson live on the scene.
40 and cloudy with very little wind. So kind of seems like a typical day in Buffalo, I guess.
I'm seeing on ESPN 31 degrees and partly cloudy. Nothing crazy. It doesn't appear at this point. Yeah.
So look, I just think it would be great. Look, if the Jets win this game, it's worth triple whatever it would have won. This happened. I feel like we're having the same conversation. At least the Patriots, doom and gloom. They're going to get smoked by the Bills, and then they win the game, and you feel way better than they probably would have if they beat the Patriots almost, right? Like, if the Jets beat the Bills, it's good for the division. It's good for conference record. They have a tiebreaker over the Bills in any situation. At the end of the day, I've said this. I will continue. Started the show by saying this, and I will say this again. I still think this season comes down to Week 18 in Miami. They're either playing for winning in, like got to win to get in the playoffs, or they're playing for seeding. I don't foresee them a situation in which they're not doing either. I think they had to win one of the three of Seattle, Minnesota, and Buffalo.
Correct.
I think Seattle's by far the most realistic. I think I've been very kind of honest about that. I think Seattle's a nice team. They've got some weapons, but you look at what the Rams were able to do yesterday and the Bucs and other teams, like there's definitely some flaws in Seattle's game. They're not a perfect team by any means. Buffalo's not a perfect team either. The Jets match up well. They want to be the Bills and all that different stuff. And, maybe the Bills kind of, going to the game almost overly amped up, and they kind of shoot themselves in the foot, and the Jets capitalize on the turnover too early, and boom, all of a sudden it's 14-10 Jets in the third quarter, and you're feeling like we could go win this football game. But if they get, I really feel like they got to steal one of the two, Seattle and Buffalo remaining. I think you assume, right or wrongfully, that they take the two at home, and then you're going to Miami, and look, you're rooting like heck probably for Miami on Sunday, that Miami wins, kind of knock the Chargers back again.
Correct.
You hope the Patriots lose on Monday night, and the Patriots basically are eliminated at that point, and it's you, the Chargers, and Miami for 2 spots. And look, you're playing Miami again. That's why I just think Miami's got a really tough schedule here, though. If Teron Armstead misses any type of time, I think Miami's really good. They're explosive. Their defense is awful. And if they lose on Sunday, then they go up to Buffalo in the cold, and all of a sudden Miami's sitting at 8-6, just like the Jets, and the Jets have the tiebreaker over them. Woo! Like now we're talking, right? Then Miami still got to go to New England. Like they're not, their schedule is not easy.
No.
So either way, whatever happens on Sunday, if you're the Jets, try to take care of business, steal one more, and you feel like you are all but, walking into the playoffs. Now you're playing for the division and seeding. Can we get the 5 seed? So can we get the 5 seed and avoid Cincy and avoid Buffalo? All these teams. And again, you're rooting against New England heavily. You're rooting against,
of course.
Again, I think the Sunday night game, you're rooting for Miami.
I would be too, just to remove the Chargers off the chessboard. Because again, you play Miami anyway. So right now they're up a game. But however, if they're 8-4, you're 7-5. You still play them, so you're just like, got you later. Take care of business against Chargers.
You want to stay on path with
off
them.
The board.
Yeah,
agreed.
We're in alignment there. But if Miami does lose, you're rooting really hard.
Terrible.
It's not terrible. You're rooting really hard for Buffalo the next week to get Miami to 8-6. So
correct.
It's going to be a fun 5 weeks. I still think the Jets should have every reason to get in the playoffs. I don't think it's impossible to ask them to go 3-2. I just would prefer the Jets, have clinched the playoff spot week 17. So that way week 18, they're just playing for seeding. And worst case, they go to Kansas City or Buffalo, for the playoffs. But best case, they're going to Tennessee or Baltimore, I guess. Baltimore's the other one. Yeah. I know the Jets don't have the tiebreaker over them, and the Denver winning yesterday would have been huge because they would have dropped the Ravens to 7-5. If Lamar Jackson's going to miss any type of time here, it looks like
It seems like he will be at a minimum out for Sunday, and it could be weeks, according to Harbaugh.
Going into Pittsburgh, who's playing pretty well, that game is no shoe.
Tyler Huntley.
They got to go into Cleveland, or they get Cleveland again with the nasty man. So it's going to be fun. Yeah, I don't know how to say it. It's going to be fun.
It will be for sure. I'll just say quickly on my prediction, I believe the Jets win this game 29-26, but I think the Bills are pressing, and Von Miller out. He had a huge play in that first game. All of a sudden, he's gone, and the Bills have not played well. I mean, they've found ways, and credit to them for being scrappy as hell, but man, this team is not blowing doors off like they were before, and the Jets beat them with who is their now third-string quarterback. So, I mean, let's roll it out and see what happens, baby, for old Jets Bills. Will, before we get you out of here, set us up for the week. What is on the Will Parkinson plate that, of course, everyone can follow you at that handle, and what's, of course, on the podcast for TOJ?
Yeah, so podcast will be dropping later tonight or first thing tomorrow morning. I'm going to break down just a little bit of the game. Got a chance to rewatch it, dive into the tape a little bit. Just wanted to take a deep breath before I got too far down the rabbit hole. Have a pod Wednesday or Thursday. Likely, Nate Geary, who does pre and post for the Bills, do some radio up in Buffalo, and potentially Darius Butler as well will coming on. We're going to talk a lot of DB stuff. He's either coming on this week or next week. We'll talk some Sauce and DJ Reed and break down those guys and the matchup at Diggs and kind of going forward here. So should be a good week on the pod. We're probably next week or the week after going to hit 1 million downloads since the start of 2021. So I'm excited. We're trying to get a little fired up, but hopefully I can cover. We can cover some more some W's and playoff run here.
We're looking forward to that. Will, thank you so much for taking the time as you do every Monday, man. We'll check in with you next week here and, of course, on Friday for the radio show. Appreciate you.
Thanks, man.
There he is, Will Parkinson, everybody, joining us here on the show. I want to give a quick shout-out before I sign off personally. Guys, stay tuned to the channel. Make sure, whether you're watching live right now or after the fact, that you support the show. And you could do that in one of two ways. First off, for free. Like the video, hit subscribe. Makes a huge difference. We're streaming live right now on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/. YouTube.com/BoyGreen25, of course. And also, again, the YouTube Super Chat is always available. Guys, here's what we have coming up this week. We're having a Jets player live on the show tomorrow. Live, people, on the show. Of course, I learned a valuable lesson earlier in my sports career when I promoted an interview before I had the interview recorded, and a guy told me, I guess you shouldn't have counted your chickens before they hatch. So everything's lined up. I have the player. I've got everything all lined up for tomorrow live for a show, but I will not reveal that name until, of course, we have him live on the show tomorrow. But we're supposed to have a current New York Jets player, a current New York Jets starter on the show tomorrow, and it's going to be juicy. There's a lot of things to dive into with this particular player. So, guys, make sure you're watching out for that. We're going to have a Bills insider on the show this week. And then later this week, we're scheduled to have a former Jets player on the show. So this is supposed to be a jam-packed week, an absolute blockbuster. And if you want to make sure you never miss a video, guys, because we can't always cross-stream this show on the Heavy on Jets channel, make sure you hit subscribe and also hit that bell notification so you never miss a video. We're going to have quite the show this week. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. You lost to the Vikings. That's okay. Turn the page, looking ahead to Buffalo, and try to get a sweep against the Buffalo Bills, which would have been crazy to say before the season. So we will see, of course, if the Jets can get the job done. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We got a great show for you guys the rest of the week. Hopefully you guys can tune in. Thanks for paying attention. Thanks for tuning in. And, of course, thanks, everybody, that contributed with your YouTube Super Chats. It means all the world. It keeps the lights on here for the Boy Green Show. Thanks, everybody. Peace out, baby, and we will see you tomorrow.